Hey, Dirt Farmer Jay here from dirtfarmerjay.com. Recently, we got the Boss Industrial 27-ton gas-powered log splitter. We put it to work in our wood lot. What do we think about it? The good, the bad, and the ugly. Coming right up. Hey, Dirt Farmer Jay here from dirtfarmerjay.com. My friends at Boss Industrial sent us a 27-ton log splitter, gas-powered log splitter, that we actually did the assembly video that they use when they send that splitter out to some of the major retailers where their assembly teams put those units together. And in that transaction, they provide us the log splitter to allow us to put it to work and tell you what we genuinely think. And that's always the arrangement when we do these kind of things, that we'll let you know what we liked about it, what was just fine, and what we thought could have been improvement. So stick with me. But first, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you this unit at work. And my friend and neighbor Mark has a wood burning stove in his shop as well. He's an off-road racer. They have a car that he works on a lot during the winter and uses the wood from our wood lot as well, because he comes over and helps us process wood, and that's what keeps his shop warm. Well, Mark is the one that you're going to see in the video here putting it together here. So here's Mark, my friend and neighbor, getting ready to go to work with the log splitter set up and ready to go. One thing I want to mention very quickly, you always want to work safely around this kind of equipment. Notice that Mark is geared up, so to speak, for the occasion. So he has on a cap, glasses, he's got some earbuds in, gloves, long pants, all that sort of thing. You don't want to be messing with these sort of things without that kind of equipment. And the first thing he's going to do is check the fuel level, make sure that we have adequate fuel. We always start with a full tank. And if it's near the end of the season where it's going to be stored, we always have gas stabilizer in the fuel. But here he's got it ready to go, okay? Now, the next thing you're going to do is look at the fluid reservoir and make sure that you always have the hydraulic fluid in the unit at the right level. If it's too much, the system overpressurizes and blows it out the vent. Don't ask me how I know that. But anyway, you got to make sure it's at the right level. And if it's too low, then you're going to end up with a problem where it doesn't have the adequate amount of fluid to pressurize the system. So the first thing right there we do is check that right after the fuel, make sure that's ready to go. Now, the next thing we're going to do is the main beam on this machine. You don't want to put grease on it because it's going to make an awful mess. It'll always be right there. But we go ahead and oil it up. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. One is to use like bar and chain oil or a light oil of some kind. You could use WD-40, although that's not a true lubricant per se. One of the other things that we use is a Molly spray, and you can use that. So the next thing you're going to do after you make sure the main beam is lubricated is you'll go ahead and open the gas valve, which is the bottom lever in the area by the carburetor, and then go ahead and set the throttle up and set the choke to closed if the unit is cold. If you've been running it before, you're going to leave the choke open. Okay, now the next thing you're going to do is go ahead and pull it, get it started and running. So as Mark begins to do his work here, the first thing to notice that the control handle that advances and retracts the ram and the wedge is pretty intuitive. You put it forward towards the direction you want the ram to move, and you pull it back to retract the wedge. So that's very intuitive. Now, you'll notice here, Mark's pointing at a little bolt or adjustment. And what this is a safety. When the ram retracts along with the splitter, it's going to hit that bolt stop and force the lever forward, stopping it. And what that stops you from doing is damaging the hydraulic components by continuing to hold it under full load while it's completely retracted. You would probably blow a hose out, ruin the pump, that sort of thing, if it just sat there bearing down. So there's a control in there that automatically, or a device that kicks out the handle, stops it from continuing to retract, and safeties the equipment. So you can see that in operation. Now, the other thing that's going to happen here is as he is splitting a lot of wood here, he's moving along pretty quickly. One of the tricks that Mark does is he looks for a split that's already developed in the short log section, and he aligns the wedge with that so it automatically pops it. And you can see this has done a nice job, just pops it out. He's able to extract the bark off of it. And in a very short time, he's got a sizable pile of firewood going. Now, something else that we didn't show on here that seasoned wood splitters do is if you split something in half, is to stack them on top of each other and return the ram through it. If you're using a single ram or single wedge, return the wedge through it and split it into 4 pieces for smaller kindling, easier starting before you got a really hot fire that you can burn the bigger stuff. So that's another trick that Mark uses routinely and we do out in the woodlot ongoing. Now, the other thing that is really good about this unit is it can be set up for vertical splitting, as you see here, and that's easily accomplished by pulling a pin. There's a horizontal beam latch that you pull that back, raise the whole ram up so now the wedge is going down against the pressure plate at the end. And this is extremely handy for very large logs that you didn't want to lift up onto a table or on the log tables. The disadvantage is you're working very low, but it's very easy to do by pulling the latch on one end, standing it up, re-engaging it, and then, of course, when you're done, returning it back to the horizontal mode. So all of that is there. And here you can see the trailer mode. Once it's been put back to the horizontal, you wouldn't do this with it set in the vertical orientation, but the horizontal setup, now the unit is entirely towable. And as you can see here, Mark's driving off with his mule type of vehicle, his utility vehicle, and now returning it back to its home. So it's very towable, it's very nice. Okay, so Mark's overall impression with this unit is that this is a great unit. It's very well built. So I'm going to give you very quickly 10 things that I really like about the Boss 27-ton log splitter. And then I'm going to give you some things that I thought that could enhance as well, just so you can make an informed decision whether you or not you'd like to purchase one of these units. Let's do it. First thing I really like is the tires and rim. They're good duty type of rating, carry the weight very nicely, look like they'll last for quite a long time, and the bearings in are very nice. I really like that. So the heavy duty components that are on it, if you look at the main frame that's in the middle, the I-frame, it's an I-beam that runs down it. Now I compared this with some other units at one of my agricultural supply. A lot of times they're using a lighter gauge beam down the middle or something that's a T-beam or that sort of thing. But if you overpressure for the rating of that main beam and you bend the beam, the splitter's pretty worthless at that point. I don't think there's much chance of doing that with this main heavy-duty beam in the Boss Industrial unit. Number 3, love the dual unit. You can do either horizontal or vertical with those easy change-outs. I tend to use it primarily horizontal, but I can see with some of the big rounds I've got out there, I may use that vertical as well, let the ground carry the load of the log. I like the easy latches access for pivoting up and down. They're intuitive, they're spring-loaded, they lock in place. It's very easy to disengage and engage the latches. They did a good job with that. The control handle is entirely intuitive. Within a minute of using this unit, the muscle memory develops and you're just running it back and forth. And what I find is that if you're doing a shorter log than the entire unit, then I only retract it partially just enough so that it reduces the cycle time. The next thing I like is the engine. This is a 250cc engine. It's manufactured by a long-term and reputable engine manufacturer, Briggs & Stratton, meaning that you can get parts and you can get service easily. The engine runs very nicely. It starts up cleanly in the time that we've been running it, and we put it through about 3 or 4 splitting sessions. It just performs flawlessly, but I like the fact that it's an easily serviceable machine, both parts and service center wise. The next thing, the cycle time is about 15 seconds. Now for you commercial guys and gals, You may say, boy, that's a long time to wait. But a lot of times you're using that to reposition the next log, or as I mentioned just a few points back, a lot of times I don't retract the ram and the wedge all the way back. I just retract it back far enough for whatever the bunk is I'm cutting at that point. So that reduces that cycle time, okay? The next thing I like is it has an 8-inch splitting wedge, so it's pretty tall. So when you do double stack a couple of halves, you can get that 4-way split. I don't use a 4-way splitter on this. You can get it. I like just the more control, but you can get that if you did want a horizontal splitter as well. Be aware that when you do a 4-way split, you're putting a lot of pressure on all of the components because you're having to run a wedge in 4 surfaces instead of 1 vertical through the whole unit or through the whole bunk. So, but that 8-inch wedge, the other thing is it automatically, as we pointed out earlier, I love the safety that when it comes back, it automatically, it'll shut off of the control and quit trying to retract. So I really like that. And the last thing I really like is the trailer stand arm. It allows you to swivel that down and stand the machine out in its tripod configuration, 2 tires and that stand. And that once you hitch it up, it's really easy to swing that up out of the way and then transport it. I've actually moved the splitter around on country roads here a couple miles. This is definitely not for out on highway use. There are no turn signals or anything like that. This is good for moving around locally or on your own property. It doesn't have any turn signals or brake lights or anything like that, and you certainly won't want to have it out on the road, but it is really handy for maneuvering around or putting it in the storage shed for the winter. Okay, those are the things I really like. Now, here are some things I thought they can consider updating. None of them are deal breakers, but I think they're nice to have. So here we go. Number 1, the log tables are a little bit small. So what I found is, and there's a trade-off with this, I'll explain in just a second. A lot of times the log is too big and wants to fall off when you've split it. There's not enough room when you're splitting the first half. It wants to push the other ones off. If those tables were a little bit bigger, that would be handy. And they're a little light gauge. They tend to bend a little bit, but they do a nice job. They're tapered in. They tend to move the logs towards the splitter. That's good. But I thought they could have been a little bit bigger. The disadvantage of that is, though, the further it out, the further is you would have to stand to the splitter, putting a little bit more strain on your back. But I still think it would have been nice if they're a little bit bigger. The vented reservoir cap to fill the hydraulic fluid is right under one of those log tables. So it's a little hard to access and to pull out and to see it and that sort of thing. I don't know if there could have been a different place that could have been situated, but it's just a little irritation, but like I said, not a deal breaker. The next one, hydraulic fluid is notoriously hard to read on a dipstick, and we found that was especially true on this. When you have clean hydraulic fluid and you pull out the dipstick and it's kind of a golden color already, and the hydraulic fluid is a golden color, boy, it is hard to see where that fluid is on there and if you're at the right level. Don't know if there's anything to be done with that, with different coloration, detents, something, I don't know, but it's just something that you have to work hard at to see the correct level. The next thing is the control lever tends to stick in the forward position a bit at the end of a stroke, which means you've got to be on it. If it's extended out the whole way and the wedge is now up by the pressure plate on the other end, it'll sit there trying to continue to press. So you'll hear the engine bog down, the pressure pump come into play, start to, and you got to be quick to get that off of there. So it'd been good if there was some kind of extent on the other end that shut that or neutralized it. And I don't know how that could be done, but I'm just saying that's something you have to keep in mind when you're operating the equipment. All right. Because of the gauge of materials used in this, And some of the stuff I've compared out in front of the big box stores and the agricultural supplies compared to this unit, this is a next or a couple steps up. I wouldn't call it fully commercial, but it's darn close. Mark, my friend, just goes, wow, this is really well made. It's heavy duty. There's a trade-off on that because of the way it's laid out and where the components are. It's heavy on the tongue. So when you try to maneuver it around by hand, you're going to get a workout. You definitely want to have gloves and all that sort of thing when you're lifting it up. You might be able to put an extra handle on it, that sort of thing, to make it easy. But it is heavy on the tongue, probably out of necessity. Lastly, the unit has an integrated hydraulic fluid filter that's inside the tank. And that's okay. My personal preference, I like a standalone filter that would be mounted somewhere, suspended upside down so that it's easy to access. And that when you take it off, it doesn't, I don't like them inverted the other way, because when you unscrew them, it's going to flood fluid out and it'll be a mess. But if there had been a way to suspend that someplace else, I would have liked that. But again, it's not a deal killer. None of these things are. If you're interested in acquiring one of these, and if you do get one, I think you're going to be very pleased. You can go to bossindustrial.com. They're also sold in many of the big box stores such as Lowe's or Costco. You can take a look at those. If you do decide to buy one of these and buy it unassembled, then you can check out the video that we produced with Boss Industrial that shows you how to put the unit together. It's pretty intuitive, and you'll end up with a lot more familiarity with your machine than you do if you buy it pre-assembled. But if you want to buy it pre-assembled, you can go to some of these retailers. Check them out. Another thing you may want to check out is this episode that we did on Boss Industrial's 5-inch gas-powered wood chipper. This thing's a beast, and it allowed us to put clean up in an apple orchard, and it chewed up that wood like crazy, put out great chips. We think you're gonna like it. Until the next time, this is Dirt Farmer Jay with dirtfarmerjay.com.